clean off any little burrs on your chenille, and what we want is to place this opposite our solder joint. So the solder joint will be on the bottom, and we'll just flex the inside, and we're going to put 4 pieces of solder on the inside. So your same neutral flame that we always use. Now I used hard solder. If you want to make life easier on yourself, use easy. No pun intended. On and off the metal, just to dry out the flux. And you don't have to worry too much about the solder touching the inside of the bezel and the base. As long as it's down in there, it will go where it needs to go. So once I have the flux dry and it settles down, if you have a little piece that's up on the side, push it down. It's fighting you. And make sure that you have your chenille centered. So just heat on the bottom, the flux will go clear and the solder will flow. You can see it flow around the outside. Now the reason we put it on the inside and float it is we don't want to have to clean anything up here. We want to be able to just pickle it and then set the stone, put it in the tumbler. Have a really good look, make sure it's soldered everywhere. If it didn't, you can put another little piece in where it needs to be. But tidy it up now, just from the inside. Okay, we're out of the pickle. Just have a look, make sure that the solder is lovely. And if it is, finish tidying up the ring. I need to sand the inside. I'm just going to use a split mandrel on my pendant drill. And if you did a good soldering job, it'll take just that long to finish the inside. I don't polish the inside of mine. I quite like the 400 sandpaper finish, satin finish. Now at this point we're going to set the stone. So we smooth the top edge of our bezel a little with our sanding stick. Once again, 400 grade paper. And just to get the saw marks off. Not that it really matters, because we're going to be hammering this anyway and putting new marks in it. But it just makes it look a little bit nicer. Don't sand any of the outside of your ring at this point, because annealing, pickling, soldering, pickling, you end up with a fine silver surface. If you sand or polish it, the fine silver comes off, but if you put it in a tumbler, it just shines up that fine silver, and we don't have to deal with fire scale. Now, this is a sterling ring, and if you put a translucent or a transparent stone in this, it will eventually oxidize underneath. If you're using an opaque stone like onyx, just drop the stone in and set it. But if you're using a transparent or a translucent stone, a little piece of foil, a little piece of fine silver, thin fine silver, just in the bottom of the setting will stop that from going dark. So I've got my foil in the bottom because I'm using chrysoprase, which is a good Australian stone. We just drop that in there. And so you can see I put the ring on my ring mandrel so that it doesn't distort the ring. And I've got just a small, shiny punch, and I'm using a chasing hammer. And we'll go north, south, east, west, just to set the stone, and then we'll work our way around. Now, as I'm hammering, I always rest a finger on whatever the base is that I'm holding, and then I adjust the punch accordingly, and that's just so I don't slip. It's so you have more control. Now that's captured, and we'll just work our way around, and I always work towards myself so that I can see what I'm doing. Now, you could put this in your little bench vise, which I probably will, but you can also just put your ring mandrel in a vise, and it works just as well. I'm using the vise just because it's a little bit easier to turn it to work on the ring. At a 45-degree angle, just go all the way around until the bezel touches the stone, and then we'll increase the angle fairly straight up and down just to make sure it's pushed down against the stone, and then we'll stop. Now, as I hammer, what I do is I just slowly move the punch so that I end up with really fine hammer marks all the way around. I'm not going to do anything to those hammer marks. I'm going to leave them in. So this is where I stop. No sanding, no nothing, no filing. I'm just going to leave those little hammer marks in, and we have a nice little picture frame setting in the tumbler.